You start to realize like, oh, my body was just getting used to how it was feeling. And people think that's aging. But really, it's not aging. Some doctors see me for treatment. One doctor, she said, why didn't I know about this? And that's where you get that stomach sticking out. They're getting swelling in the midsection. I go, well, it's not fat, it's plaque.
Excited to talk with you, talk about Colonics, colon hydrotherapy. In my opinion, it's an underutilized tool. So I'm excited to have you share your knowledge. People can learn more about it, understand it better. Can you explain what a colonic is? And then maybe a little bit more about why you feel like you're helping people when you're their therapist for that.
Your large intestine, your guts are filled with water. It's just water. It's filtered water. And about 2.5 gallons just travel through your 5 feet of intestine. And what your intestine does is it's like a sponge. So if the organ tissue that skin your colon is made of is missing water, it's going to absorb it like a dry towel. And your guts are kind of like a plant. So a plant thrives on having a constant water feed. So it absorbs water and then it makes that organ squeeze really tight and squeeze out all of the old waste that's been accumulating in there over the years or over time. So what could accumulate in the intestines is mucus, acid, old poop. Just when people go to the bathroom, they think everything came out. No, there's a little bit that stays in there because the intestine is all twisty turns and all kinds of pockets in there. So it's never going to be completely emptied. So little bits of waste turn into what we call plaque. So it's like black tar and it's really stuck on the wall of the intestine. So it's a lot like your mouth. When you go to the dentist and get your teeth cleaned, you could be brushing your teeth, flossing, but the dentist is still scraping plaque off your teeth. And plaque is bacteria that turned hard and it's like a coating that's stuck to your teeth. So you get intestinal plaque as well. So where the food goes in your mouth and where the food goes out the back door, these are the two places that build up plaque, which is hardened bacteria, like bad bacteria. So it's stuff that doesn't serve your body. It weakens your body because your body has to fight that bad bacteria so it doesn't get you sick. So it makes you tired when you have too much bacteria built up in your guts and in your mouth. That's why people often have chronic fatigue. So what colonics do is just like going to the dentist, getting your teeth cleaned, 2 to 4 times a year. You clean out your guts and then you feel more energy, you feel more mental clarity, you're more hydrated because, your stomach can only hold a certain amount of water. So if your stomach could hold maybe 1 liter of water, for example, and if you try to drink more than that, you feel like your stomach's going to burst. Your intestines will absorb 1 liter in 5 minutes. So you can absorb up to, 6-7 liters in one treatment rather than just trying to drink all that water. So you get caught up pretty fast. So that's what a colonic is. I don't know if that answers your question, but a person lays basically on a massage table. We're talking about something, it's called the closed system. There's videos on the internet that look different. It's because that's called the open system, but I don't use that system. So the closed is just, there's no exposed waste. You don't smell it. It's not anywhere. It just goes into a tube. So the tube is in your bottom and it's connected to a instrument that's on the wall. And the water goes in and the waste goes out all through this tubing. So it's not, it's anywhere where you could see it, but you could see it in the instrument if you wanted to look at it in the window. There's like an observation window. So you could pretty much see what's in your guts and what's coming out of it if you wanted to.
Well, I always like to look because I want to know what's in there and what needs to be coming out. But I think a lot of people, if they haven't had a colonic before, most people you talk to, or when I talk about it with clients, like people are intimidated. They think it will be some of the things you mentioned, you already addressed, like it will be really messy, will it be really painful. Most people don't love the idea of inserting a tube into their rectum and then flowing water through there. But it really is like not a big deal. Like for how much I thought it was a big deal before I did it, and then I actually did it, it's like Yeah, I mean, honestly, getting my teeth clean at the dentist has been more uncomfortable at times than my visit to Colonic, and it's certainly no less refreshing once it's done. So it's yeah, that's why want to have this conversation, talk about it more, so people are aware of it a little less, feel less intimidated, and can look into it if they want. So, but on that note, what kind of people come to you, or who's a colonic who could consider one helping them?
Well, people who see me are of all ages, all body types, male, female. It's like a 50-50, half of our clients are men, and some and women also. Young people, sometimes the parents will bring like a teenager or young adult in if they got very dehydrated, say if they're playing outdoor sports and suddenly they don't feel good, they don't perform as well in school, they can't concentrate. Usually that young adult is severely dehydrated, and then they have a buildup. We call it a toxic overload. So that's this waste that's going through the walls of their intestines into their blood, and it really throws things off. Like, for example, a person has trouble sleeping, they get insomnia, or they don't sleep deep enough, so they wake up like they just took a nap, didn't get enough sleep. So what's going to happen during the day is they're going to be depending on coffee, energy drinks, carbs, sugar. So you're going to always have that craving for carbs and sugar if you don't get that deep sleep. And if you have congestion in your intestine, blocking the fueling system from absorbing fuel, because fuel gets absorbed through the large intestine also, water and fuel. So we want to remove basically we want to remove what's blocking the absorption, putting back what's missing, which is water, taking out what doesn't belong, which would be stuff blocking your fueling system, and also preventing a deep sleep.
Then I've had a lot of clients that I'll recommend the Colonic, and they go do it, and they love it. They can't believe what comes out. They lose weight, like multiple pounds. Numerous clients have told me, "Oh, I could see my belly feels flat. Like I feel just trim and light and great after it." So there's so many things that can come from it. And a lot of I got into it because I just started reading all these books and studying all these naturopathic doctors, really, but many of the kind of famous or prominent naturopathic doctors from the 1900s all had one aspect of their treatment or philosophy was based around colon health. Many of them recommended colonics or cleanses that would cleanse the colon. And so I just learned, like, okay, this is even though I haven't heard much about this growing up, like this is actually a natural health principle, and it extends to other countries and back further into history. But there's, of course, in my opinion, fear mongering around it. Of course, that everyone has to ask their own doctor if it's right for them. There are some contraindications. Maybe you could talk about that just for safety. But outside of that, there's just a lot of like, oh, be careful. It's like, well, it's also, I promise you, it's not healthy to have your feces impacted in your colon, to be reabsorbing toxins, to have your waste system not moving. I felt terrible when that started happening. Just really, the fatigue you mentioned and all kinds of symptoms. And on the other side, to get things moving, it can be life-changing, and it's an important part of health, and it's an important first step for people who are struggling with health. Because if someone's really struggling with health, they got a lot of toxins, their body's overburdened, whether it's pathogens, metals, chemicals. That stuff, the primary exit for that is the colon. And so if that's clogged or not working properly, if it's like a sewer system that's partially or almost fully blocked, like, person is not going to be able to rebuild their health. So when I learned all this, that's how I was like, all right, this makes plenty of sense. And I do view it kind of like, to your analogy with the dentist, like go to the dentist every 3 months to keep my mouth clean and healthy there. And I do this similar thing with colonics.
Yeah, that's ground zero. I call your intestines ground zero, because in the 20th century, there was always this, put take a pill, take natural foods, take supplements. So they're putting something into your body, but the organ itself has to be able to process it in order for that to get the most benefit. So if some people say, I take vitamins or I take supplements, I don't feel any better, I don't feel any different, they don't work. Well, that's not true. Actually, they'd work great, but your body has to be able to absorb it and process it. So mechanically speaking, it's kind of like when, I think, I'm not a car mechanic, but I think when they change your brake pads, so they have to take the wheels off first. They have to take your tires off first to get to the brakes. So in natural medicine, you have to clear out your fueling system, which is your colon, your guts, in order for any kind of natural medication or diet or anything, water, to be fully absorbed by your body. So that's 21st century. But in the previous century, we had the right idea, but it was kind of like putting icing on a mud cake. You're throwing something at something else, which really you have to take something away first. So you have to clean out the sludge and the acid and the mucus first, and then you unearth the fueling system, which is on the wall of the intestine. So that's why people get that really great burst of energy, that some people get a dopamine hit. They start to feel in a really good mood because their hormones start rebalancing. So I know there's articles that, out there that says, oh, it's dangerous and risky. And I think they confuse it with colonoscopy. So a colonic and a colonoscopy are two different things. One is a camera that it's a medical procedure where they're taking a picture of your intestines. So they're putting a sharp object, a camera, into your intestines, and they're pushing it all the way up in there. And it is invasive and risky. And I'm not saying don't do it, but definitely read what's involved, because they make you sign a release form. They make the hospital or whoever's doing the test makes you sign a form that your family isn't going to sue them if they hurt you or kill you. Because if the camera tears the tissue of the colon, that could kill a person instantly. So I'm not saying that happens, but it could happen. So but a colonic, it's only water. So water can't hurt you. It's a very small plastic tube that goes into your body about 2 inches, and the water goes really slow into your body. So there's no high water pressure. Well, at least that's the way I do it. I don't use any high water pressure to fill the colon. So you don't feel like you're going to fly off the table. You don't feel like there's water blasting into your bottom. So, I hope you didn't feel that way, but
no, I definitely didn't. I've done a few different kinds though. You mentioned closed system versus open. I found that the open system has more pressure to it. And I actually that's always the question people have when they start, which is better. And I found it's personal preference, but I've really found the closed, I got a lot better results, and it's just more comfortable, more relaxing, less intense. And then, like I said, I think the big piece is working with someone who's good. We all brush our teeth every day, but we also go to a dentist, and not every dentist is the same. Some people like their dentist, some people want a different one. And it's similar with colon hydrotherapy. You've got to find somebody who you trust, and ideally who has a good track record and could get results. And then from there, it could be a really positive experience. So yeah, when I go in, it's, in and out, really minor discomfort, but again, probably not much different than at the dentist. And then I feel great walking out.
Yeah. Some doctors see me for treatment, believe it or not. People in healthcare, nurses, doctors, and a lot of them are shocked. They feel so much better. And one doctor, she said, why didn't I know about this? I said, well, you know about it now. It's just water. That's probably why, they're not taught in medical school, because it's only water. Medical school is about medicine and surgery, and that's important too. If people need that, then they should have the best doctor they can possibly find. But for health maintenance, so what we're talking about is just maintaining good health and not getting sick. I mean, there's no guarantees, but your body is all broken down into systems. There's your nervous system and there's the immune system, which that system helps you resist things that make you sick. So really, colonics are a big part of building the immune system to make it strong so that if you are exposed to any nasty germs or viruses or other environmental toxins, that your body can fight that. Because that's all we can do, right? Just keep our immune system strong.
Now, what about someone who says like, okay, I get how, the water could clean out the colon, wash things out, but me, I probably don't need this. Like I don't have any problems with constipation and I think I'm good. Because a lot of people think that, and maybe rightfully so, but I also know a lot of clients that have thought that, then went and got it and they're like, oh my God, like stuff just kept coming and coming out. I'm like, I don't even know how it was all in there. So do you see that much?
There's two types of population. One are people who are reactive. If something hurts, they'll react to it. If something doesn't feel well, I better go get help. I better get this resolved. And some people are proactive. So they're doing things like maintenance to prevent that thing, that bad feeling from happening or that thing going wrong. So people who are reactive, that's a way of being that we used to be over the centuries. We used to think, everything's okay in my body if I don't feel bad. But something's brewing in there. So with physics, you've stacked up blocks like that Jenga thing, or not Jenga, you take away blocks. But when you're stacking blocks, there's a point where it just starts to tip over and then fall. We call that the tipping point. So in physics, if you have so much bacteria to the point where your body your immune system tips over and then you start feeling bad, that means something already happened in there. In fact, it was already well on its way in advance by the time you feel it. Like people, for example, with cancer, people don't know they're walking around with cancer until they don't feel good. And it's already at stage 4 when they get a test, or 3. It's usually advanced when they really feel bad. So they don't know the cancer cells are dividing in their body until they don't feel good. And then they find out, it's already advanced. So with waste, you don't feel it when you're going to the bathroom and, I went to the bathroom, stuff came out. Not everything comes out. And it's because of modern life. Like no one has a complete bowel movement. It's always an incomplete bowel movement. There's always some waste stuck in there. And why is because we don't live in nature. So in nature, everybody would be squatting, right? Like if we had no toilets, no houses, and we were outside, early humans just squatted. So their legs, their quads, all of the nerves on their quads connect to your intestines and make your intestines squeeze. But we are eliminating in an L shape. So a toilet is like this, right? L shape. The natural human position for eliminating fully is a V shape. So we're not in a V shape. We're in the L shape like that. We're sitting on the toilet in an L shape. And some people say, well, I have the squatty potty. Well, that's, clever marketing, You're not really squatting. You're just putting your feet up. You're elevating your feet up a little bit, but you're not in a V shape with a squatty potty. So, everyone who goes to the bathroom regularly, there's still a little bit of stuff in there. So over the decades of your life, all those little bits of waste build up. So the average person who's never cleaned out their intestine has about 5 to 20 pounds of plaque in there, at least 5 pounds. So that's why people are so shocked to see all this black stuff coming out of their body. It looks like tar. And it doesn't matter what size the person is. I've worked on little tiny, petite females, and they're shocked. Like, what? Where was all that? So your colon they're little pouches in your colon, and they expand. So the colon just pushes anything that didn't make it out of your body within 16 hours. It pushes the waste inside those pockets. Just say, get out of the way. I got to clear myself. So there's a muscle in the middle of your colon that looks like, it's like the muscle of your throat. Nothing could sit in it. So your throat, you have to either swallow or cough it out. That muscle has to clear itself every 16 hours. So if whatever didn't make it out of your body after 16 hours, that muscle is going to push everything into those little pockets.
That's a very interesting point you're making.
Yeah. So there's all these twists and turns, and there's little pouches in there. And that's where all the old waste that didn't make it out of your body is stored. And just doesn't wash out either. People say, oh, just flush me out. It doesn't just wash out because it's hard and it's stuck to the wall of the colon. When you're getting your teeth clean, they're scraping. They're scraping it with a metal tool off your teeth, which is really weird. But I can't do that, obviously. So what I have to do
that would not feel good.
You would not like that. But what I have to do is get the mechanics tuned up. So that's why I call it a tune-up, is because we add water to the intestine until it starts to contract really tight. So it's like a plant. So the more hydrated and the more water it soaks up, the tighter your guts are going to squeeze. So we want it to squeeze super tight, and then your guts will kick out that plaque. So there's no suction. Like somebody will ask me, like, do you flush it out? Is there suction involved? I go, no, nothing aggressive. Just setting up your guts so that your guts are going to do what they're supposed to do, which is squeeze really tight, 100% tight, and it'll kick all that stuff out. So I hope that helps understand the mechanics.
I like that because I don't know if every colon hydrotherapist thinks about it that way. That hasn't been my experience, or at least they didn't verbalize it like you did. So your goal is more, it sounds like it's almost like kind of nursing it back, like gently bringing it back. And it sounds like a big piece is giving it the hydration it needs so that then it can contract the way it's supposed to, which is interesting because when you read some of these, if you go searching online, like looking into colonics, one of the first things to read is, oh, they're bad. They're just like enemas. They dehydrate you because they flush out all their electrolytes. But you've mentioned a few times rehydrating till the colon absorbs enough to get back to a fully hydrated state. And then are you saying once it hits that state that it will then fully contract and it can start excreting that? And can it excrete not just stool, but can it also excrete the more hardened stuff, the plaque that's in some of the nooks and crannies in the colon?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kicks out whatever's supposed to be in there. But if what's in there is inorganic substance, like something that's not a plant or an animal, so it would be something like chemicals from junk food or prescription medications, recreational drugs, anything that your body doesn't recognize, that may be so stuck to your intestine that it's hard for your body to kick it out. So instead of saying to the person, oh, you need like 10 or 12 sessions, I say, look, let's put all the missing water back and then take some supplements, some natural supplements that are going to break down that inorganic substance. So it's like a shortcut. And then once that's broken up pretty well, then it all comes out really great during maybe the third session, something like that.
What are the supplements that you find?
I like formulas that are really gentle, nothing with a stimulant. Like on the market, you're going to see a lot of colon cleansers with senna in it, cascara sagrada, psyllium, and this is all from the 20th century. This is an old idea when people didn't have any better ideas. So the nickname for those are called bulk and blow. So bulk it up with fiber, blow it out with a laxative. So it's very uncomfortable and it's not really good for colon health in the long run because it's too harsh and too aggressive. So they're on the market, people might see them like, oh, colon cleanse, I'll buy that. But I like to use things that do not have stimulants in them. So look at the ingredients and they should be very gentle, like marshmallow root, a blend of magnesium with some milk thistle or, for example, aloe. But anyway, there's a little bit of a lot of different things mixed with magnesium. So that helps break down all of that stubborn substance that's in the colon. For someone who's never cleaned their colon out, they have at least a couple of decades. If you're 25 years old, you have at least 2 decades worth of buildup in there. Because, kids eat a lot of junk food too. So all from childhood, that could be in there. So if a person says, I go to the bathroom, I don't need a colonic, well, they're going to be shocked to see what comes out of their colon. Because I see people all the time who say that to me. They say, I don't have any problem with constipation. I really don't need this, but I heard it was good for your health. Or, my, friend talked me into it. But then when they actually get the treatment, they're shocked at what comes out of them and they feel so much better. But they came in saying, I feel great, I feel good. But you always reach your next level. So if you come in feeling good, you walk out feeling amazing. If you come in feeling terrible, you might feel a little bit better. But you feel better. But you start to realize my body was just getting used to how it was feeling. And people think that's aging. They say, I'm getting old now. I'm tired. But really, it's not aging. It's high level of acid, low level of water. So what we do is reverse it. High water, low acid. So we put more water in, take the acid out. When your body ages, it's because you're getting very acidy. And when you're getting acidy, you get dehydrated and all full of more excess waste. Because the more dehydrated you are, the less bowel movement you will produce on the toilet.
I totally agree. So much of health we write off as aging. We have this really limiting idea that I'm just supposed to feel worse as I get older. There's nothing I can do about it. I just have to accept it, and things are just going to constantly go downhill. And there may be a piece of that that's true, but to your point, now in the 21st century, there's so much that we can do. There's a lot of tools, and imagine if you never got your mouth cleaned, it would probably look different after 20 years, right? But it's just we don't like talking about cleaning our colons the same way, so it gets overlooked.
Yeah, if you take care of your teeth, your smile always looks ageless. You take care of your intestines and the skin. Things will change as you get older because of hormones, but you don't have to hit the wall after the age of 50, because at the age of 35, that's when guys start showing up, saying, I was doing my stomach sticking out and I'm doing crunches and nothing is helping my gut. They're getting the dad bod. So they're getting swelling in the midsection. I go, well, it's not fat, it's plaque. So we empty all that and then they can get back down to their normal torso, that the way it was when they were 20s. So that when you reach the age of 50, 60, the torso is the same. It hasn't swollen up. The skin won't sag, a lot, and wrinkles, is because of dehydration, mostly. Because if you look at a piece of fruit and it shrinks and it gets wrinkly, why? Because the water has evaporated from it. So you all have to be 70% water. Your whole body, everything in your body has to be 70% water. So when I'm working on a person, I can tell if the tissue in their colon is below 70% water. So the first thing I want to do is get that water stabilized, replace all the missing water. That's the first thing that has to be done. And then the next thing is to take out all that junk that shouldn't be in there. But even, when you talk about aging, when you talk to someone older, you can kind of tell on the phone because their voice sounds older, but the vocal cords have to be 70% water, or they do sound different. So singers, you could tell who hydrated and who took care of themselves. As they got older, they could still put on a concert and sing and sound like the same person they did 40 years ago. But some singers don't even have a voice left now. They're talking like this, their old grandma voice.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It just affects so much. But I don't think a lot of people equate getting a colonic with a hydration. In fact, I think sometimes people equate it with dehydration. And I don't know exactly what sources put the this out there, but they'll say, "Oh no, you're going to wash out all your electrolytes and etc." Do any people come to you with that concern, or what do you see in terms of hydration after a session?
I think a colonic should go past 45 minutes, a treatment. This is only my opinion, but I feel like you have to stay well within the safety zone of a person losing electrolytes. So if you're completely dehydrated, for example, and all you're doing during your colonic is just absorbing water, and I think you know what I'm talking about. You're not detoxing. Your body's not kicking out anything. You look in the window of the instrument, you don't see anything. Well, something's happening. Your body's absorbing water. So we stop the treatment after 45 minutes because we want to stay in the safety zone. We don't want anyone losing electrolytes. So if your colonic just goes on and all you're doing is absorbing for a couple of hours, yeah, you could probably lose electrolytes, get dizzy, feel like you're going to pass out. So we don't get to that point. But you don't lose electrolytes when you're just absorbing water for 45 minutes. And if you do feel a little dizzy, we just give you some to drink. Like, drink some electrolytes and you'll be okay in a few minutes. You'll feel okay.
Yeah. That's a good distinction. I mean, like with any tool, gotta know how to use it and be smart. And my own experience is that I felt more electrolytes are lost with an open system because there's a lot more flushing. Honestly, I don't know how to evacuate it like a lot more times than I do in the closed system, which is much more gentle fill, much more gentle out. And again, it's more guided by the therapist. So I think just having that idea that you said, like, got to pay attention to where you're at and how long the session's going, but also the frequency of evacuation, filling up, and that whole cycle makes a difference too.
Yeah. So as long as we stay within the safety zone, I've been doing it for 22 years. I've done maybe 36,000 treatments. And out of those 36,000 treatments, I think one person felt a little dizzy after. And we just gave her some mineral water to drink. And she was okay, But
yeah,
she felt okay in about, she sat down for about 5 minutes and she said, okay, I feel okay now. But minerals, so your body, that's another very important thing, is that you have to make sure you're drinking minerals because we don't get it from our food. So if someone is massively mineral deprived, you're more of a risk of feeling lightheaded after you detox from a colonic. So it's always good to drink liquid minerals, like Energy Boost 70 or something like that. I think you can find them in a health food store.
Yeah, it's more and more common for electrolyte drinks. And yeah, if you're that deficient in electrolytes and minerals, then you're going to have other issues too. A colonic might reflect some of it, but that's a deeper underlying issue to be addressed.
So if someone doesn't feel good after a colonic, the colonic didn't do it because colonic's just water, but there was something already going on. Like someone says, I got a cold. Is that normal? I go, well, there was probably one brewing, but a colonic can't give you a cold or give you certain problem the day after.
How about from like a detox perspective? Because again, I just see colonic only as just like a health promoting activity, but especially when I was at my sickest, my worst health, I definitely felt a little like detox effects, probably because there's just so much stagnating in the colon, and then finally got in there and washed some of it out. But it I think it also stirs up a little. But again, it's like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing because I'd rather have it out than in, rather have it mobilized than stagnating. But I felt like there were some after effects, and then after it all settled down, then felt better than ever.
Yeah, there's certain bacteria that are really nasty, like diabolical bacteria, and they don't just die off or they don't just sail out of your body. They're little creatures and they fight. They fight for their life. So a lot of times, and they also excrete waste into your system. So when you have like stuff like E. coli or H. pylori, just for example, there's hundreds of types of bacteria. They poop into your blood, and then your liver is like your blood's filter, right? So your liver is trying to clean your blood. So when your liver gets all on what we call an overload, like it just gets too dirty, you feel terrible. So when you're detoxing, your liver is just offloading, and you can feel very nauseous, or just like you want to go to bed. You just feel like crap or like throwing up. So that could happen when you're all full of really bad bacteria or all full of chemicals, or both. Some people have said that to me, like, oh, I feel terrible. So you can feel the same after your first colonic. You could feel better or worse. Depends on what condition your body was in. So I don't deal with people like they're all the same person. I just address, okay, what's the situation right now? What's going on with this person? And then we address that. We take it right from where they're at, and not like just mapping out this template on all people, because it might not be appropriate. Usually bloating is the number one complaint. Most people say, I don't know, I just feel stuffy. Even when I drink a glass of water, I feel like I'm stuffed. So there's all pressure building up in there. Because there's valves in your intestine, and those valves are like scrambled. So what I also like to do is recalibrate the valves so they're moving like windshield wipers. Because if there's pressure in there, they're going to move randomly, and air will just get trapped in the intestine. And that's where you get that stomach sticking out. Some people say, I don't know, my stomach feels really hard. It just pops out when I eat a few bites of food, because those valves aren't moving properly. They're just jamming. So why do they do that? Dehydration. So you have to be 70% water for everything in your body to work properly.
Yeah. I don't think we appreciate that fully, that dehydration, and as it gets more severe, things just aren't going to function the way they're meant to. And then we're kind of like, well, why do I feel bad? Why are things going wrong? And it's like, well, the body's made to have a certain level of hydration, and it's going to have to make compromises, and there's more of a strain when it doesn't have that fluid environment.
And that information is well known from the 20th century. So that's why at that time, you see all of this information coming out. You got to drink water, drink 8 glasses of water a day, drink half your body weight in water. That was from the 1980s, that information. Those studies were done in the 1980s, but they did not study, are these people absorbing this water? Are they drinking 8 glasses and peeing out 5 of them? So there's no attention paid to absorption. So that's my focus, is absorption. Is there something blocking all that water you're drinking? Are you feeling like you're just running to the restroom all day when you want to do the right thing and hydrate by drinking water? Are you feeling like you just got to go to the restroom all day? Does it feel like the water's going right through you? So that's what I call a red flag. If that happens, okay, there's mucus building up in your intestines. We take that out. You can drink water, and you're good for 3-4 hours, 2-3 hours. You don't have to just run to the restroom all day while you're trying to hydrate.
Well, I wish I had met you and we had this conversation about 5 or 10 years earlier. That was one of my early like symptoms. Like I just felt water was running right through me. I told a few doctors, and nobody mentioned the possibility of mucus in the intestines or cleaning out the colon. It was kind of like, well, try drinking more, like what we already said, try drinking more electrolytes. One doctor told me drink more lemon water, drink more, put some table salt in your drink, which I don't think are bad ideas. Like I still do that, but it did not solve the issue, and things just kept going downhill for a while. And I was, remember being so thirsty, but I just couldn't figure out, I didn't know what's going on. So it's interesting to hear you point that out, plain and simple.
That's correct. That's good information about drinking water. But then we didn't know the other part of it until recently. That's the 21st century. I would say 2012-ish is when all this information was revealed more about absorption. And, but before that, people thought, oh yeah, just drink water. That'll solve it. But the water has to get in there. So it's like air in the tires of the car. So the tires are turning, but if there's no air in it, you won't go far. So when I'm doing the treatment, I'm putting water in the body, just like air in the tires. So if your tires have to have 35 pounds of air and you're missing a few pounds of air, you can't tell. It doesn't feel like a flat, but it will wear out your tires faster. Your car will become less fuel efficient. So your body is kind of like that. And it's also like a plant. So do you ever have a plant where you just don't water it enough, but it has enough water to stay alive? It doesn't die, but it really doesn't produce much. But you add more water and then it starts sprouting and, just really cranking. That's kind of like your intestines. So if your intestines have, some water in it, yeah, they'll function on a marginal level. But to get yourself top 100% performance, you have to be 70% water.
If someone wants to work with you or learn more about your work, how can they do that?
Well, you can look at my website, which is colonicsinorangecounty.com.
Well, Kitty, I appreciate you coming on the show today and explaining all this to us, teaching everyone listening. So thank you for being here.
All right, take care, Josh. Have a great day, everybody.